that we might spend some time on the 50 names of Hashem,
Right.
and 70 names of Hashem, and this and that. But I didn't have time to prepare yet.
Okay, that's good.
That's good, because I thought you didn't want to do it. So
I wasn't, I don't want to do it. I just thought it was going to be a lot of time exercise. I wonder what we will get from it.
Okay. דעה כי נשגב שמו לבדו. כתיב ששמו נשגב הודו על ארץ ירושלים, שאפילו ארץ ירושלים, we said all this. והעניין הוא כך. What do we say? שבכל יום ויום מתגלה דבר יום ביומו. Every day has its own issues. It has its own revelation of godliness. Just as when Avram finished his life, he came with all his days. The Zohar says, Kol yom v'yom avi davidate. Every day had its own, it was like a garment that Avram wore. So he wore all the days of his life. He did everything, he used every day to its maximum. So, in every day of creation, for 6,000 years, there's a different, if you want, revelation of godliness. And you have to use that revelation of godliness. It's not the same. You don't do things by rote.
Where did you get 6,000 years from?
No, I'm just saying, he says here, every day, Dvar Yom B'Yomo, every day manna came down. Really, in the verse he's quoting from Beshalach. There it's about the manna, that the manna came down every day. But every day is a different issue. It's like the opposite. We talked about this. It's the opposite of the way that we work today. That you work and you get at the end of the month as if all the days were the same. But that's not how life really is. Every day, if you were really dependent on your work every day, you'd get a different sum every day. Because every day has a different mazel, if you want. Has a different effluence that's coming down from God. Nothing repeats, really, even though we're repetitive. Right? What's the biggest difference between Yiddishkeit and everything in the world? Really, the biggest difference, I think, that Yiddishkeit doesn't hold from chaos. We don't hold from it.
Yiddishkeit is different. The rest of the world, time is continuing in a straightforward movement. But with Jewish people, time's going around in circles.
No, everybody has it. Time goes around in circles. That's what a year is. It's a cycle. It's a cycle.
It doesn't mean anything to the government. So does the Jewish people.
No, you're wrong. What it means, what others are looking for is security. They're looking for things to repeat. They're looking for things to be ordered. They believe that order is good and chaos is bad. That's the dichotomy of every single mindset, every single cultural mindset from the beginning of time till today. Chaos is bad, order is good. They're bad, and so you say they're devil worshippers. Okay? Yeah. That's how you see them.
Well, they vote the Democrat.
Oh, they vote, or the Democrats, or whatever every person has. Doesn't matter. Marxist. There's all kinds of words for it. It doesn't matter. And the point is, you demonize it. Why do you demonize it? Because chaos is an agent of destruction. And anything that's chaotic is ungodly. Meaning they understand Hashem as being ordered. Hashem is order. And Yiddishkeit doesn't believe that. It says chaos and order, both of them are tools of Hashem. Hashem is above both. Meaning...
Why do we need chaos?
What?
Why do we need chaos?
A million reasons why. But it's not the point why we need it. Everybody agrees you need it. But everybody's afraid of it. And we embrace it.
What's chaos? Surprises?
Surprises. Chaos is like, where there's no order. Right? The less order there is, the more chaotic it is, the more surprise there is. So surprise could be something that you look at it as, oh wow, I got a present. Right? But most people are terribly afraid of these surprises. They're really afraid of them. They don't want any surprises in life. They'd like everything to just move along. Okay. Very interesting. The question of whether the people who are Marxist, again, they're called Marxist. I don't believe they really are, but whether they really believe that, or whether they think that what they're doing is ruining order. Is that what they're really thinking about? Or is it that what they're doing is their version of keeping the order? They have a stranger version than you do. But I've never encountered anybody who comes and says order and chaos are both under God. They're both, God controls them both. Meaning, Yotzer Or uvorei choshech. I formed light and I create darkness. And I have both of them, and they're both mine. I use them both. The Jewish mentality has always been that both of them are tools in Hashem's hands.
Darkness is not lack of light. Darkness is a creation.
Right. So first of all, that's a big philosophical debate, right? Whether it is. And the Alter Rebbe held that it is something different. And I think that most people, at some level, have this debate in their heads about whether chaos is something in and of itself, or whether it's certainly the agents of destruction. They're certainly a creation. There's certainly something. Look at the Arizal. I mean, again, you have to do these things. I think we talked a little bit about it, but not enough. The Arizal looks at the destruction of the first and second temples in Tisha B'Av, and suddenly he comes up with this theory about why this was all a good thing. How can you say that something that cost millions of lives, destroyed the backbone of Judaism, destroyed Hashem's presence in the world, and all that, in the end it's a good thing? So if we weren't 2,000 years away, or in the Uri's times 1,500 years away, he'd probably be, most people don't read, so they don't know even says this. But the people who read this and heard it, so why didn't they completely ostracize him? Why didn't they ban his books? Because they understood that there's a lot of truth to it. That in the end, the darkness serves Hashem just as much as the light does. And the question is, are you willing to have a world scheme that accepts the darkness not just as a necessary evil, not just that it's a necessary evil, but as a sufficient cause? I want to get into exactly what the difference is, but it means that this is a tool that Hashem uses not because the light didn't work, because it has its own place. Can you accept that? Can you see that? Can you understand that? And Yiddishkeit is not afraid of it. It says very clearly, we're not afraid of the fact that Hashem, meaning the rest of the world, fears the devil, and we say, okay, Hashem, he's a L'Shem Shamayim Nitkaven. He means what he does for the sake of heaven. It's not for any other reason. You don't have to be afraid of it. Okay. So the manna was a way to instill in us, in the beginning of our path as a people, this idea that every day has its own affluence, has its own shefa. It's all different, and you can't carry over from one day to the next. This idea of order means that you want security. You want to plant something, and then you'll have enough seed for the whole winter, or something like that, and you won't have to run out and somewhere, and try to sell your some wood to get food. People want security. But the fact that manna came down every day and you couldn't keep it from one day to the next, that was the anti-security blanket.
Either you believe or you don't believe. Either you trust
Right.
Hashem or you don't.
And when you trust Hashem, you say the fact that at night the food disappears, it's no longer here, and who knows if tomorrow morning is going to come or not, that is the essence of Yiddishkeit. That's the very essence. And that's where Yiddishkeit differs, because it's not afraid of the lack. It's not afraid of the darkness. It's not afraid of there's no boogeyman. There's nothing out there to get you.
Says me, there's only a problem anyway for a very short amount of time.
Why? It could be for a very long amount of time.
Once 3 or 4 days have gone past,
you've got a
They're
problem.
already acclimatized to it, and they know that tomorrow's going to be the month, and they don't even think about it anymore.
It's not true.
Get up in the morning, and they know the month's going to be there.
No.
Don't worry about it for very long.
It changed. They also saw that it changed.
And its taste.
Its taste, and how far away it was, and how much he had to work on it, in what way it came down. There were a lot of changes in it. It wasn't just the same all the time. So it wasn't a constant thing. Every day has its own effluence. It's a completely different theory of life than everything that I know. Every single culture that I know shuns chaos and seeks order and seeks security. And Yiddishkeit is not that way. Why? Because in the end I understand Gam ki elech begeitz al mavet lo yirara ki Hashem ki ata imadi. Even if I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. Why do I fear no evil? There's evil. What are you talking about? It's a real thing. Because evil is in Hashem's hands. In the end, evil is not independent, doesn't do whatever it wants, in the same way that the good doesn't do what it wants. And that's a tremendous lesson. Again, the non-Jews are afraid of change. I say it like this: Why are most of the progressivists in the world Jewish? Because for them, change is an agent of goodness. It's a strange thing, but I mean, I think they're still misguided in the way they do it. But this idea
I don't
of
think that's knowing. I think it's just because you don't have the Shema. I don't think they really,
there's I think I told you about Alter Simchovich, who was the mashpia in Torah Semes in the I guess the 30s in Yerushalayim, and he was very ill at the end of his life, and he died from whatever he had, and so he writes in his memoirs about how tremendous it is, what a feat it is that Hashem is keeping the state of darkness, meaning his darkness, his illness, from moment to moment. And people just expect Hashem to keep the good times rolling. I'll be the same. He says it's just as much a feat that Hashem keeps something illness for as long as it is. It's a crazy thing. Because you need Hashem to make it happen. It's not going to happen without Hashem. So I know it's from you. It's not some, nature broke down. Oh, what can we do? No, this is now my connection with you. This is how you reveal yourself to me. And it's different every day. And in these days, these 2 years, this is how Hashem is revealing himself to me. Does it mean that there's no good side? There's also a good side. But most of my life I didn't see the darkness. Now I see the darkness. And the Hashem sustains it just as much as he sustains goodness. And it's a very difficult thing to come to terms with. But you have to pass through that to really understand Hashem, to really have a connection with Hashem. You have to accept that Hashem does it all, not just part of it. It's not just a breakdown. Okay, most people think of it as just a breakdown. Nature is prone to break down. Not so simple. Okay. In any case, every day Hashem says something new. What did he say? On the first day he said Yehiyo, on the second day he said Yehirakia, and so on. Every day of the creation he said something else. So that set it up that every day of the week is something else, until Shabbos. Why? דהיינו ביום א' נמשך להיות יהיו מבחינת חסד. ביום ב' יהירקיע. יום שבת חוזר למקורו כמו שהיה. How does this work? אם משל אדם שהוא מחשב או מדבר, שיכיל מדיבורו או ממחשבתו חוזר למקורו הראשון, כן כבכל אצלו יתברך, נקרא שבת להשם אלוקיך. So he says that when we speak, we're taking our thoughts and we're expressing them. So our thought is projected outwards. That, he says, is the weekdays. Hashem, as it were, spoke on the weekdays to create reality. What happened on Shabbos? The speech retracts and goes back into its source. Where's its source? In the thought. So Shabbos is about thinking. So that's the explanation why you don't do melacha, why you don't do work on Shabbos. Because melacha for us is like speech for Hashem. And on Shabbos, Hashem didn't speak. Nothing new came into creation. There was no creative act. Rather,
you created rest.
What is rest? Rest is the return, lanuach. It's like lachzor, lamakor, is the return of the speech back into its origin. Where's the origin of speech? The origin of speech is in thinking. And so he thinks of the world, but he doesn't speak the world.
You stop speaking, you stop creating, and the whole world collapses.
No, so that the world continues to be sustained because Le'olam Hashem dvarcha nitzav b'shamayim, because what was spoken is still there. But there's no new speech coming out. The power of speech, the power to bring out new words, retracts back into the mind. Back
so
into the thought.
The next Sunday.
And on Sunday it comes back down. And so, since man is supposed to mimic Hashem, supposed to mimic God, so for that reason we don't do any kind of speech, i.e. work, on Shabbos. Because it's not shaykh. In fact, as a memoir or as a remembrance of the fact that by Hashem it's speech, we talked about this once, in the Yerushalmi it says, Bekoshi itiru ledaber b'Shabbat. Really, the sages wanted to forbid us from speaking on Shabbos. They didn't in the end, because they thought it was too difficult. But even just the fact of remembering this, that really we should be refraining from speech altogether on Shabbos, that's enough to remember how this works. Okay. Ufirush Yisrael, Yisrael alav b'machshava. And the name Israel itself, when we say Shema Yisrael, it means going something that is in one's thinking. That's why it's Shema. It's bonenus. It's meditating upon it, thinking about it. וכשמתבונן שההווי אלוקינו שם הווי הוא בחינת צמצום והתפשטות בהמשכה, והוא להיות אלוקינו מבחינת מחשבה אלה, להיות התהוות תשמות ישראל שתאמרו מבחינת מחשבה אלה, שהוא גבוה יותר מבחינת הווי אחד, שהוא צמצום והתפשטות בהמשכה להיות בחינת דיבור. שמזה שורש התהוות שבעה רקיעים והארץ וארבע רוחות העולם נרמזים בח' ד' אחד, וכנ"ל במשל מהלב שנמשך לחיות הדיבור, וגם לחשוב ולהרהר הרי המשכה לבחינת מחשבה הוא גבוה יותר, וזהו שנאמר שתי שמות הוויה. So he says, what are we thinking about when we say Shema Yisrael? Israel is how the thought is. Havaya Elokeinu is Hamshacha, meaning that it's from the machshava, from the thought, to create souls. Havaya Echad is to create reality. That's Dibur. Okay? Again, so what do we have here? Shema Yisrael, I'm going back into my thought, into my thinking. Okay? So, the way we said it many times is that when you say Shema Yisrael, you close your eyes, because you don't want to see the changes in reality. You want to go back to the fact that everything is reality. Everything is God. Where is everything God without change? Only in the world of thought. The world of thought is like looking at a still of reality. Nothing's changing. It's like Shabbos. That's what he's saying here. It's like Shabbos. Nothing is changing. Everything is just being sustained, but not changing.
Print screen.
Sorry?
Print screen.
Huh?
You print what's on the screen.
Yeah, it's a frozen still of reality. That's why you close your eyes. Not because you want to ignore reality, but you come and you say, I don't want to see the dynamic character, the changing character of reality, because now I want to focus on how things are in Hashem's thought. And then he says there's two things that emanate from this thought. Havaya Elokeinu, Hashem who's our God, and Havaya Echad, and Hashem who is one. Well, it's not the same thing. That he's our God and that he's one is not the same thing. He says, well, of course it's the same thing. But it means it's referring to two different appearances of the same thing. The one appearance is in the souls of the Jewish people. he calls this Havaya Elokeinu. The other appearance is how Hashem becomes, or how Hashem projects through his speech, the changes in reality. Okay? So we have the souls and the worlds. When we say Hashem Elokeinu, we're talking about the souls. When we say Hashem Echad, we're talking about reality, the worlds. And this is a big deal by the Baal Shem Tov, right? Because we have in his famous letter to his brother-in-law, Gershon Kitover, he says there at the end that you should meditate on three things: how in every word of Torah, every word of davening, there are three dimensions. What are the three dimensions? This worlds, souls, and divinity. So the divinity here is the first two words, Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael is that I meditate on Hashem himself, how he is to himself. And there's no world and there's no soul even. Hashem Elokeinu is going down into the level of souls. Hashem Echad goes down into the level of worlds. What you see is that without Hashem Elokeinu, there can't be Hashem Echad. It's very, very important.
We're going to repeat that next week,
Tomorrow.
But we're good.
So, but this is the construct that he's building here. There's Shema Yisrael, the first two words, Hashem Elokeinu, next two words, Hashem Echad, last two words, and they correspond to, in order, divinity, souls, and worlds. Okay? And the souls in the middle, Hashem Elokeinu, that is the intermediate that connects the divinity with the world. Meaning, if there's no souls, then the world are what we call soulless. They're also godless. You have to have souls in order to bring the divinity into the world. So there's a lot more to discuss here, and we'll see it, like you said, tomorrow.
Tomorrow being Thursday is the day after today.